Hi everyone, this is Jim Moyna. The channel's Moyna Bass Fishes, and this video is going to be about my final recap of competition at the 2025 Bassmaster Open on Kentucky Lake. Specifically, the strategy that I used to finish 122nd place out of I forget the exact number, but it was about 230 competitors. It was not a great finish, very mediocre finish, and it was almost a complete disaster. Um, on day one, so it's a 3-day tournament. Everybody fishes the first 2 days and then just the top 10 on day three. So I was done after 2 days. And after the first day, what did I have? I had zero fish, tied for last. I was kind of surprised. I mean, I wasn't clobbering the fish in practice, but I thought I was tuned in enough to know that to at least catch something. And then when it got to be day two, man, I fished and fished and fished forever. And as the day wore on, the thought of double zeroing was, and the reality of it was starting to become closer and closer. And I couldn't believe it. I started thinking about, as I'm fishing, I started thinking about the last time I ever double zeroed a tournament. And it would have had to been back in like 1990 or 91, fishing a trail called the American Scholarship Tournament Trail. It was a team tournament. And they had their like championship. They had like different regions around, and they had their championship on Pool 19 in Fort Madison, Iowa. And the fishing was, for whatever reason, during that time, the river fishing was really bad, up and down all the pools. It was just way off. And that tournament was just brutal. It was a 2-day tournament, and the number of double zeros was probably half the field or better. And I remember just guys catching 3 fish made the money, that kind of a thing. So I think even if you caught 1 fish a day, you made the money. So anyways, I was looking at that, and the difference was that was incredibly brutally tough. And this tournament, there were guys catching fish and catching good fish. So I was just feeling really stupid about things, really like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this happening? And it got to be, I had a 2:45 check-in, so I had about a half-hour boat ride. So at 2:15 I had to be done fishing, and literally at about 1:45, maybe 1:40, somewhere right in there, I was just going down another shoreline of many shorelines. And in fact, I got to be in this area because there was a stump. There were some stumps in 8 to 10 foot of water where I caught a big 4-pound largemouth in practice. So I wanted to go hit them stumps, and I got there, and there was another competitor like dead right on that little area of stumps. So then I'm thinking, well, I'll just wait for him to move. And I've been fishing behind people all tournament long, fishing used water, multiple times used water, all tournament long. And so then I'm like, well, I'll just go run some shoreline right down the way from these stumps. So I go there, and I'm fishing maybe five or 10, well, maybe about 10 minutes. And once you know it, finally I throw out there, and I'm winding in this crankbait, and I feel something go boom like this, and nothing's hooked it. And I take about 3 more turns, and boom, another, something hit it again. And another 3 more turns, another hit, and now I'm hooked up. And I put my power poles down immediately, thinking, because the thing you don't know if that's the same fish hitting it all 3 times, or if that's one fish taking a shot at it and then another fish in a school of fish taking a shot at it, and so on. So obviously I'm hoping for that it's multiple fish doing that. So anyways, I drop the power poles down. The power poles anchor me in position so I don't drift up onto where I just hooked this fish. I reel the fish in, land them, and it's like a 3-pound smallmouth. So I mean, it's a victory of some sort to avoid the 00. So that was nice. I just hate to be in that conversation of, having to avoid a 00. I just don't even want to be part of that conversation. But here I am in that conversation, and here I am taking some delight in having caught a fish to avoid the 00. It's a situation, a position that I just don't fathom myself being in that position. But indeed, I was celebrating a fish avoiding a 00. And boy, how things can you want to be celebrating a win, a victory. You want to be celebrating hoisting the trophy above your head, but here I am celebrating a fish that avoids a 00. Man, is that just, it's, I just don't like thinking about that. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to 0 one day, let alone nearly do it again. So anyhow, I take that fish off the crankbait, put him in my live well. I haven't run my live wells for 1 7/8 days long. So I get back up there and I start casting again, and again and again and again, and I cast all through that zone without having another bite. Probably took about 10 casts. So then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just one fish. So I pull up the power poles and I let the boat drift about 20 feet down the shoreline. And I decide I'm just going to drop the poles again to hold the boat in position. And that, by the way, that fish I caught was in about 2 foot of water off the shoreline. And there was a little bit of wind coming in on the shoreline, not hitting it straight on, but enough to put a little bit of extra color in the water. It didn't make it muddy, but just a little bit of an extra murk to it, just a little tinge of murk compared to some areas that are maybe a little more clear that aren't hit by the wind, or even brazed or grazed by the wind. So anyhow, I dropped the power poles down, and literally I make like 1 or 2 casts, and something cracks that crankbait, and I get it hooked up, reel that one in, and I don't know if I told you the size of the first one is about 3.5 pounds. So I'm reeling this one in, and I see it's another good one. Get them in, and this one's like a 4-pounder. Nice fish. It was hooked just right under the chin. So I could see that as I was trying to land him. And the fish is struggling around, and I see that he's hooked under the chin, and it's kind of in a precarious spot. So I'm just a lot of tension, a lot of nervousness in whether I can get this fish in the boat. But sure enough, I get him in the boat. So now I have 2, and this is only 5 minutes later from when I caught the first one. So now I got 2, and throw him in the live well. And now I'm thinking, well, how many more can I catch here? So I cast the crankbait. Nothing's happening. So then I make like a super long cast down the shoreline. And these are parallel casts to the shoreline. If this is the shoreline and here's my boat, I'm not casting straight to the shoreline and bringing it out. I got the boat up here and I'm casting lengthwise. And that's how I've been casting my crankbaits pretty much the whole tournament, trying to parallel what they call paralleling the shoreline. And so I make this one long cast, and it's literally, again, the second fish was in 2 foot of water. This one's in 2 foot of water or less. This third bite I have on the super long cast. So I took about 3 cranks on the handle. It might have been less. It might have been in 1.5 foot of water. It was really up there tight. But anyways, I hooked this one, fight him, and then finally he comes to the surface. I see he's even a bigger one. It's like it's like these three fish progressively got bigger. Started with the smallest one, then the medium one, then the biggest one. Got that one in the boat. It's a 4.5 pounder, and get him in the live well. And I notice a boat coming down the shoreline from behind me. I not, as I'm pulled down, I'm not moving, and this other boat's coming along. I saw him earlier. He was way up the bank, and he's working his way down. And shortly after I put this one in the live well, turns out it's the guy I've known a long time, Chad Grigsby, and he's asking me if I mind him going around me, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I know I'm not going to make the money. He says he just needs 2 more fish, and he's probably going to get a check. So I tell him, I'm like, man, I just caught 3 right here, and he responds. He says, yeah, I caught 2 right there earlier and lost 1. So apparently it was a really good spot. And but anyways, so Chad goes around me. He keeps fishing. He catches one of them herring of all things, and then he keeps going down the shoreline, and I keep working this point here. And eventually I run out of time, and it's time to go in. So I got 3 fish for 12. I think it was 3 fish for 12.3. So I had a 3.5 pounder, 4 pounder, and a 4.5 pounder. Basically, is what I had. So which was pretty cool to put me in the 122nd place out of 230 whatever. But yeah, it's kind of a letdown, that's for sure. It wasn't the finish I was looking for. Here's the crankbait that I caught those 3 smallmouth on, right there. I mean, obviously this one's still in the package, but the one, it's on a rod. It's in the rod, my rod locker, and after reorganizing the boat after the end of the tournament, that rod ended up towards the bottom, so I don't want to dig out all the rods. But it was this bait in this color called Spring Craw, and it just so happens, here's a little story about that bait. So I'm in the service yard having some things double checked. Nothing went wrong that was keeping me from fishing or catching fish. I just a couple housekeeping things that needed double checking on, and another competitor comes by the service yard, and he sees my rod there, and he's like, yeah, he asked me, he sees the rod tied up with this, and he asked me, hey, did you catch any on that? I'm like, well, I threw it like 60 to 70% of the day. This is on day 1 now I'm talking. And then he goes on to tell me how he caught 15 keepers on this thing. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I just zeroed on day 1. And you're telling me, and I threw this bait a ton, and you're telling me you caught 15 on that. So, that was good, nice to know. But at the same time, it's almost like, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I'm glad he told me that. But then again, it was, at the same time, I mean, I'm more glad he told me that than, I'm really glad he told me that, because this just fish catching information like that from another competitor is, that's just, I felt like, well, at least I was throwing the right thing, but now I'm like, what was I doing wrong? Why was I not catching any? And I had no answer for that question. So on day 2, when I was actually got to be in the bag line, in the line where you're waiting to get up on stage to weigh your fish, I was talking to the guy in front of me, and he caught all the fish he weighed on this bait in the tournament. I don't know he didn't say what color, but that's what he was using as well. And he made the money. I think he had like 30 pounds, a little over 30 pounds for 2 days. I don't think he didn't make the top 10, but he made the money. And but I was still wondering, well, why why are these guys catching seemingly more fish than I am on that bait? Whatever. It was just, I can't understand it. Another bait that worked in practice and for some reason didn't work in the tournament, but it didn't work in the tournament for me, but it worked for other people. I heard of people catching some on this bait right here. That's what they call the rock crawler. Now, I don't know if this is the color they were using, but this, you can see this is a similar color here, and this color seemed to do all right for me in practice. But that was practice, whatever. I didn't caught some shorts on it, but I caught 2 short fish on days, 2 short fish day 1, 2 short fish day 2. So that is my tournament. So the whole goal, so how does that work now? How does that set me up for this season? It sets me up very poorly. The whole goal was to fish these 4 tournaments in Division 2 so that I could qualify for the EQ 3 tournament series this fall, do well there, and then fish in the elites for 2026. Now, that goal is not realistic. With my 100th place finish in the first tournament, my 122nd place finish here, I could win the next 2 tournaments and not have enough points to make the top 50. So that's the dream kill. The dream killer is done. The dream killer struck early this year. You like to at least go in the last tournament thinking you still got a shot, but here we are after 2. We're done. The dream's killed. It's out. It's over. I'll still fish the 3rd tournament on Lake Norfolk. I'll still fish the 4th tournament on Leech Lake, just to compete, further hone my skills, further develop my experience. But yeah, so now I'm gonna have to rethink about, I have to make different goals now, because that was the main goal. So now I have to rethink things, make some new goals for next year, for this year, that might set me up for next year. But I put a little thought into that, but haven't made up any decisions, haven't made up on my mind, so we'll leave it at that. I do have on the schedule, those 2 tournaments I mentioned on Norfolk and Leech. I've got the Champions Tour on the schedule. That's a local Minnesota tournament series. That's a lot of fun, pays well. But other than that, my fall, because I'm not going to be fishing the fall EQ series, now my fall is wide open, and there's tournaments, other tournaments to fish, so I got to look at that. As far as I did watch, or not watch, but I listened to the live stream on Bassmaster of the day 3 coverage at Kentucky Lake. Congratulations to the Japanese angler Aoki. Congratulations to him on winning the tournament. There wasn't a lot of print coverage on, at least as of this morning here. The tournament finished yesterday. My last day was 2 days ago. But there wasn't a lot of print on Bassmaster as far as how these guys were catching their fish, or at least I didn't see it. It did make mention of a couple of swim baits Aoki was throwing, but it looked like to me he was drop shotting. To me, that's what it seems like. That's what he was doing in the live stream. So, not really. I really don't have much to say on what the other anglers are doing, other than I did see throughout the tournament there are a lot of anglers pounding the shallow water. A lot of them. Many tournaments pounding the shallow water, catching fish in that 2-foot zone, 3-foot zone. And there's a lot of used water. I mean, there were certain stretches of water that just got absolutely pummeled. I mean, I'd be in an area working a little piece of shoreline, and across the way you'd see a guy run down, pull up, run that shore, he'd leave, another guy would come up, run that shore, leave, then I'd look behind me, and there'd be like 2 boats coming down the shoreline behind me. It's like, it was kind of crazy that way, which made for a real tough, made it really tough on a lot of us. It was a tournament where the people that had the fish were definitely in the minority. Bulk of the field struggled in this tournament. I mean, realistically, I had 12 minutes of fishing where I caught 3 keepers, and that was good enough for me to beat out 100 out of like 100 other anglers with just 12 minutes of fishing in that 2-day period. Produced, bypassed 100 anglers. So there were 100 anglers that did worse than I did. And I only had 3 fish. They were nice ones, but still. And I mean, the big catches there were some nice big catches, some 25-pound bags and stuff, but that was just a handful of guys. Like, there was maybe 20, 25 guys that were on that kind of caliber fish. The rest of us were fishing for lesser fish, lesser size, and fewer, it seemed like. So, all right, well, let me just show you, just to wrap this up, let me show you what this rain did at the lake. So it just briefly sprinkled for a little while there at Kentucky Lake, and it was one of those dirty rains. Then, so look what it did to my whole boat and truck and camper are covered. I hope you can see that. Covered in just that muddy water, those muddy water spots. It's kind of wild. But anyhow, that's about all I got to say for this tournament. It was very disappointing. It has me questioning my age and involvement in this sport, because there is an age where you're too old. I'm going to be 60 next month, and God, I still feel, I mean, I don't know, there's an age. Am I there? I don't know. Last year didn't go that well. This year's top 2 haven't gone that well. But dang, if all I had to do was find one other, couple stretches like that where I caught those 3, or just pick another one off here and there, and then maybe day 1 get lucky and hit a little stretch where I could catch a few, and suddenly my tournament's way better. Why did that not happen? All right, well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and we'll come back at you next time. Over and out.